But to introduce our next speaker, I'd like to welcome JC and Hadley Miller and Nat, Ike, and Rhett Smith to the podium.
It's definitely different without Annalisa around all the time. There's no one to look over homework, watch countless movies with, argue with. My main motivator can't yell at me anymore, and it's a lot quieter, which is nice most of the time. Even though she can't be home all the time, I'm truly proud of the person Annalisa has become, because I know there isn't a harder working or selfless person I could call my sister. On a side note, it's her birthday, and so for her birthday present, I'm not giving out any embarrassing stories.
Oh, Annalisa, sweet, loving, wacky Annalisa. From all the endless barn jams, to stealing my clothes from my closet whenever you feel like it, to playing guitar horribly in my room on the daily, and who can forget dancing lessons in the cool room for 2 hours so that you could learn to floss before State FFA camp. And let me just get it out there that she still never got the hang of it. Not only can this uncoordinated, curly-headed gal sing one heck of a Hannah Montana throwback on the way home from every single judging practice, but this loving, caring sister of mine never fails to put a smile on my face whenever I'm down, give me the best life advice whenever I needed it, and most importantly, be the best role model I could ever look up to. Growing up with you has been one wild ride, but I wouldn't, when it boils down to it, I wouldn't want it any other way.
Annalisa is amazing. She visited 21 chapters this year and had a big role in coordinating the New Mexico Leadership Conference and District Officer Training. She has shown me what it looks like to be organized and efficient.
She also represented New Mexico in Washington, D.C. at the FFA State Officer Summit and spent 2 weeks at the Red Barn at the New Mexico State Fair. She has shown me what it looks like to be outgoing and friendly. Even though she is constantly busy with FFA, Annalisa still found time to cheer us on at our basketball games, help us brand, and even let me beat her at my favorite board games a few times. She has shown me what it looks like to be family-focused and fun. What do you get when you combine kindness, determination, and courage?
Add in top-notch public speaking and leadership skills, steeped in a love and appreciation of agriculture.
Sprinkle in some blonde hair, a $1 million smile, some corny jokes, and wrap it all in blue and gold.
You get our cousin,
our sister,
and your 2018-2019 New Mexico FFA State President,
Annalisa Miller.
And her retiring address, Just Focus.
Picture this. Our newly elected state officer team is hanging out at Camp of the Tall Pines. It is dark and we had just gotten back from telling horror stories at the lodge. Sydney and I were in the bathroom, brushing our teeth, getting ready for bed when come the knocks on the door. The boys were yelling at us through the door, "Girls, there's a bear outside the cabins. Get out of there now." Sid and I just yelled back, "What?" as the boys proceeded to tell us that Mr. Lean had called Mr. Smith and there was a bear headed right towards the cabins. Stricken with panic, Sydney and I dropped everything, peeked out around the side of the door, and decided to make a run for it. As we trip over the ledge of the building, we're getting tree branches stuck in our hair. We're trying to catch our breath. We finally make it there, slam the door shut behind us, and peek around the corner just to see the boys laughing hysterically, like they had just pulled the most hilarious prank in the whole entire world. Yep, and they got us good. So as the boys continued to poke fun at our reaction, Sydney and I sat there basking in stupidity as we realized that every part of their story made 0 sense. First of all, Mr. Lean definitely was not awake because it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Second, there's no cell phone service up there, so Mr. Smith definitely did not get a phone call. And third, if there was a bear outside, why in the world would we go outside of the building? So how could this entire embarrassing situation have been avoided? Focus. If we would have taken 3 seconds to focus on what the boys were actually saying, instead of just hearing the words, "There's a bear outside," then we would have saved ourselves a lot of embarrassment and kept our dignity. Now let's think about that word for a second. Focus. It's a word that we hear all the time. Ag teachers tell us to focus on fluctuating our voice while giving a speech. Basketball coaches tell us to focus on our shooting form. English teachers tell us to focus on our grammar. And our parents tell us to focus on our showmanship while in the ring. Focus. It's a word that we hear almost every single day. But how often do we actually set everything aside and focus? Every day there's lots of things battling for our focus and attention, and we must identify them so these predators don't keep us from achieving our goals. In just a second, there will be a picture that appears on the screen. Go ahead and study it and try to find the predator. You'll have 7 seconds to do so. Okay, find the predator. Now study this screen for a second. Be sure to study all the details. Now try to find the predator. Look, it's right there. Don't worry, it took me a while to find it too. Whenever we first looked at the screen, all we saw were a bunch of random, jumbled lines. And then once we focused on that one specific corner, the predator was right there, jumping out at us. Now, try to unsee the predator. Try to go back to seeing the same random blur of lines that you saw before. Can you do it? I can't. Our perception shapes the look of our present reality. When we first looked at the screen, all we saw were a bunch of random, jumbled lines. Then we switched to this screen. We set our concentration and we were focused on that one specific corner so that when we switched back to the original screen, the predator was right there, jumping out at us. However, when we tried to unsee the predator, we were unable to do so. We could not go back to seeing the same blur of lines that we saw before. We still spotted the predator. Our focus and our perception works the same way throughout our lives. When we get to choose what to focus on. What will you focus on? Will you choose to focus on the positive aspects of each situation? Or will you choose to focus on the negative aspects? It is so important that we focus on the things in our lives that are important to us. Because as we just experienced, once our focus is set, it's difficult to go back to seeing things in their original state. When we tried to unsee the predator and tried to go back to seeing the original blur of lines, we were unable to do so. We still saw the predator. It is so important that we set our focus on the things in our lives that really matter. Just as the old quote says, where your focus goes, your energy flows. Set your focus and your energy towards something in your life that matters. Now, how do we do this? Our brains actually develop our focus through 2 different steps. First, we see what is in the world. Our brain begins to process the sensory impulses that we are experiencing from the world, and we begin to develop our mindset about it. That becomes our focus. Second, we begin to perceive the look of that object. This is where our brain responds to what is in the world. We get to choose what we focus on. If you want to see something as a bad experience, that is your choice. If you want to see something as a good experience, that is also your choice. Each and every single one of us has the power to shape our reality and to form a positive perception, but it all begins with focus. Now let's put this in perspective. Go ahead and listen to this. That sounds weird. Can you make out any words from it? Nope, still weird. What if I told you it says, where your focus goes, your energy flows? Now try to hear those words. One more time for good luck. When we focus on those words, that's exactly what we heard. And the same goes for whenever we set our focus towards the task at hand, we're able to accomplish that task. But it all begins with focus. Now, focusing can be difficult, but as with anything, we must find a way to persevere and find our focus anyways. So how many of you in this room have ever felt like you have 17,000 things going your way all at once? You feel the weight of these tasks laying on your shoulders, and it seems impossible to get everything done until eventually you hit your brick wall and have a mental breakdown? I know I have. Let's go back to October at the National FFA Convention in Indianapolis. I had been running back and forth between committee meetings, livestock practice, trying to have a phone interview, and trying to get some homework done along the way. I had been completely stressed out for the majority of the trip. After an extremely stressful day, I had hit my brick wall, and I was done. I decided to go try to relieve some of the stress and go have dinner with some of my teammates and our friends from Nevada. We ordered a pizza, and we were just going to go hang out, play games, and have fun. Then my mom called to inform me that my plane ticket for another trip had been moved to a few days earlier, and I would have to miss even more school next week. I completely lost it. I ducked off from the group, went to the hotel lobby bathroom, and burst into tears. How in the world was I supposed to get everything done? I had two homework assignments due at midnight that I hadn't even started. I had to go to livestock practice, give my reasons, and practice the marketing scenarios with my teammates. I had to go find another state officer within my committee to lead my discussion group, since I would be missing the second half of the meeting for livestock. I had a 60-page workbook to fill out before getting back to New Mexico. I was going to have to miss even more school. I had to have my phone interview. I had to schedule chapter visits. I had to write a speech for one of my classes. I had to do this and I had to do that. All I could think about was my never-ending to-do list. It became completely unbearable. How in the world was I supposed to get everything done? I didn't feel like I could do any of it anymore. Okay, that's enough. I knew what my goal was, and I knew what I wanted to accomplish, but where was my focus? I was so wrapped up trying to do all 17,000 things at once that I let the stress completely overcome me. It completely consumed and destroyed my experience. Life is noisy. We're always going to have 17,000 things to do. But we can either become overwhelmed by the noise, or we can use our focus to overcome the clutter. The first thing I had to do was my homework. So I sat down, and I did those 2 assignments, and that was one sound down, and I could move on to livestock practice. I went to the other hotel, gave my livestock reasons, and practiced the marketing scenarios. Check. I found another state officer to lead my discussion group. Check. I filled out my workbook for class. Check. I completed my phone interview. Check. And I wrote my speech for class. Check. When I tried to focus on everything all at once, it was completely overwhelming. But once I decided to sit down and set my focus on one thing at a time, I was able to cross everything off my to-do list. Each and every single one of us can sit down, do one thing at a time, identify what's important to us, and still get everything crossed off that to-do list. Focus. It's simple, but not easy. What opportunities are you missing out on because you can't keep your focus? What predators are you letting keep you from achieving your goals? What sounds are you listening to? Not a single person, experience, or to-do list on this entire planet can hold you back without your permission. Don't give life's noise permission to stand in your way. Identify what is important to you, prioritize your list, and focus on one thing at a time so you can still enjoy the moment. No matter what you're facing in life, focus on the good. Focus on seeing the positive side of others. Focus on seeing the positive side of yourself. Focus on your performance. Focus on who you are set out to be. Focus on what matters. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. Don't let your focus shape a reality that holds you back. Let your focus shape a reality that pushes you forward. Just focus.
Even when it feels like my world is shaking, even when I've had all that I can take, I know you never let me go. Whoa. And even when the waters won't stop rising, even when I'm caught in the dead of the night, I know no matter how it ends, you're with me even then. When the days up ahead look a little bit brighter, but the grip of the past holds a little bit tighter, I'm reminded your grace never asked for perfection. Oh, I'm restored 'cause I'm yours and I stand forgiven. Yeah. Even when it feels like my world is shaking, even when I've had all that I can take, I know you never let me go. Whoa. And even when the waters won't stop rising, even when I'm caught in the dead of the night, I know no matter how it ends, you're with me even then. And even in the middle of the struggle, and even when it's hard to remember.
My president. You know, these past few days, I've heard what they said about their accountability partners, and I've been racking my brain trying to figure out what to say. And you know, the best thing I figured I could say was, Annalisa, I hope that whenever I start my own family, that I have kids that are just as genuine, loving, caring, and amazing as you are. You truly are a light in the lives of every member in this room and those that you've met throughout this entire year. love Sydney, Lyle, Denny, Briley, Megan, Peyton, and Cable. New Mexico FFA, your 2018-2019 State FFA President, Annalisa Miller.